In this video, I'm going to share with you a helpful reality check, a test you can do with 7 different parts to make sure that you are ready for the next SHTF situation. So there's nothing worse than complacency or assuming that you're more ready than you actually are for the potential situation that could come and hit you at your doorstep. And so whether that is under preparing enough water, that's a common reality, or overestimating your ability to escape in your particular context or situation, you need to evaluate rightly. So we're going to give you a reality check in this video with a simple test you can do to look at your family and look at your preps and make sure that you're ready. All of that is coming up. Okay, so when it comes to being prepared for the SHTF, stuff hits the fan, right? Situation that could come to your doorstep, you need to be ready. You need to be ready for different kinds of situations that could come at you. Later in this video, I'm going to share with you some of the top potential realities that could come to your doorstep, and you're going to want to stick around for that. In the meantime, though, here's what we've got to talk about. Are you prepared as you think you are for the stuff hits the fan? You need a reality check to make sure that you're ready. Well, we looked into the Reddit thread. That's one of the things that we do on this channel, is look at what is the community wisdom, what's the consensus, so that we can not rely on our own assumptions or what we've heard, but actually what is the consensus of what we are facing for this. And so we see here in the Reddit threads, in our preppers, what kinds of scenarios are you expecting and prepping for? So as we looked through these threads, here are some top scenarios people are prepping for. Economic concerns is a huge one. We need to be prepared for what could happen with economic instability. Natural disasters also is up there in terms of mentions. And then social unrest. I think those are some top ones. And then we've got some other ones on the list, but those top ones are some SHTF scenarios that we need to be prepared for. Are we really as ready as we think we are? So some preparation methods that people have begun to attack this with, and then we're going to look at how prepared you are. Stockpiling food and water, pretty key. Let's look at how prepared you are in terms of that. Learning survival skills, investing in self-defense, pretty key. And then also building a community network. We're going to look at each of those from these top methods mentioned by preppers in the Reddit thread. So let's get into this reality check. Number 1, water supply, right? So when it comes to being prepared for any potential situation that may come to your doorstep, you need to be ready with water, whether that is a natural disaster, whether that's civil unrest, whether that's economic. Water is life, and water is pretty key to being prepared. So here's a test you can do. Calculate how much water you have stored. You need to have a gallon of water per person per day. And so can you sustain yourself and your family for at least 72 hours? So when it comes to those first several days, do you have a gallon of water per person for that situation? And now that gallon of water is going to be going to drinking. It's also going to be going to any other needs you might have, which includes cooking with it, or if you need to wash your hands or clean anything. Water is life. Water is critical. So the first check you need to do is checking your water supply. And once you've gotten to 72 hours and you're convinced we can make it for those first few days, you begin to extend out your preps for longer. But to begin with, just the reality check, are you ready for what could come to your doorstep? Number 2 is food security. So having gotten water in place, you've got to have those non-perishables like you see on your screen, and know that you've got the food security to be able to handle that SHTF situation. So here's a test you can do when it comes to food security. You want to review your food supplies. Do you have the non-perishable food items? And we're talking about canned food here. That's a really critical piece for 14 days. 3 months and 6 months. Now, of course, that 72 hours, that's going to be pretty basic. Most people are going to have enough for those first few days, but then you want to be able to really think your next goal should be 2 weeks so that you can handle having enough preps in your house or within your network to be able to sustain your family for 2 weeks. And then from there, you want to begin to add to it, and you want to build this out. I've got some other videos on my channel, and check out our website so that you can begin to build out a non-perishable food supply that you have the right structure to it so that you're rotating in and out. You have the right kinds of canned food. So check out our video on that so that you don't have the wrong kind of stuff for your family nutritionally or in terms of what you're going to actually eat. And then you want to just continue to add to that and build that out until you've got 3 months and 6 months. And from there, you may build out more. But that's a good goal, to get to 3 months or 6 months. And if you don't have that, that's a good reality check for you to assess. From there, let's talk about number 3, power independence. When it comes to potential SHTF situation, again, whether that is civil unrest or a grid down situation, whether that's from terrorism or from a natural disaster, you need to be power independent. And so there are some different things you need to do. You need to evaluate your readiness for a power outage lasting more than 24 hours. Now, I've got this huge generator on the screen. You may live in an apartment, not be able to have space for a gas generator or run one. If you can, it's good to have that. But at the very least, you need to begin to assess if a power outage were to happen that lasted 24 hours, do we have what we need to be able to not only have light in dark times, which you want to have, especially if there's going to be the uncertainty of a grid down situation, but also be able to cook. Are you going to be able to have resources and some ability to cook food in that kind of situation? So that's number 2. All right, so let's talk about reality check number 4, and that is first aid and medical. Okay, so when it comes to reality check number 4 with first aid and medical, you need to check your first aid supplies and medications. And you want to look to make sure that they are sufficient for, first of all, for basic first aid. So when it comes to thinking about this reality check, SHTF situations, they're all going to have different time horizons that you're planning for. So that's a key piece when it comes to prepping. You're not just prepping for the next 5 years, or you're not just prepping for the next few days. It's both. And so we've got to first think about how do we make sure that we are prepared for the first few days of that. And that's where a critical first aid kit is going to be in place to handle basic challenges that you may face. But then you also need to be thinking beyond that. So if you were to not have access to a pharmacy over the next few months or 6 months, do you have enough backup stock of any prescription medication or over-the-counter options that you need for your family that you know that your family will need? You want to make sure to handle, first of all, those first few days, and then begin to extend that out and think beyond that to the first several months. What is your family particularly going to need in this area of first aid and medical? Reality check number 5 is an emergency plan. And when it comes to this, you need to make sure that you have a clear, practiced emergency plan that all family members can understand. So are you ready? Do you have check meetup points? So if you have kids in school that are across town or another location, how do you establish a meeting point where if something were to go down, here's plan A that we're gonna do. Mom and dad are gonna come and get you. Plan B is you go to this neighbor's house. Do you have a plan in place for which you can, your whole family knows, and they have practiced through to know in a given situation, and again, it could be natural disasters, could be a tornado, or it could be civil unrest. You need to have a plan for where you're going to meet up, what you're going to do, or if there's fire in the building, and have been practiced through that. So do you have that in place, and have you done that? Reality check number 5. All right, number 6 is self-defense skills. And so you need to assess your ability to protect yourself and your family. And this comes not only with having the supplies. Again, you need to have these things in place, whether that is by your choice, whether that's a pepper spray option, a taser, or if you want to have firearms for your particular situation. If you're in a context where you can have firearms, you want to make sure that you are thinking through that and that you are practiced with whatever self-defense option of choice you've chosen. So you don't want to just have those options and never have used them, or have no idea how to use them and figure that out in the situation. You want to not only have them, so that's the reality check, but then also be trained in how to use them. So that's pretty key. All right, so finally, number 7 is community links. So when it comes to being prepared for the SHTF situation, your resources are far more than just the food on your shelves, the water in your closet, the ability to have power. Yes, those things are critical, but now you've got to think beyond just those first few days. That'll get you through those 72 hours, right? But then beyond that, you've got to begin to think, how do I have the connections to be able to sustain for a couple weeks, for 3 months, for longer? And so you need to begin to get to know your neighbors and to assess your local resources so that you can know, hey, I am ready for that given situation. So having thought through all of that, within the Reddit threads, one more thing that we took a look at as we were preparing for this video are the types of disasters that you could face. And so for a geographic location, so this is a little bit off on this graph, but when it comes to coastal areas, it's hurricanes, top the mentions on the list. And then there's earthquakes for those that are in those zones, which is most of us. In the Midwest, tornadoes. And then low-lying areas, there's those within these threads specifically mentioned floods, and saying, hey, are you in a low-lying area? That may seem obvious, but are you assessing which of these areas is pertinent to you, or are there multiple that you need to be considering? And on the West Coast, it's wildfires, and then again in the Northeast, potential for blizzards. So depending on the disaster that you are facing, you need to be considering, what do I need to do next? So now, finally, I want to talk about in this video, there are some key reasons why you should be doing this, and let's take a look at those. So when it comes to being prepared for the SHTF situation, you need to have increased safety and security. And when you're well prepared in this way, you're going to significantly enhance your personal and your family's security and safety during that situation. So you could face these shortages, you could face this imminent danger, and this you watching this video and taking action on this is going to make sure that you are prepared. It's also going to give you peace of mind. So there's mental and emotional stress that comes with these kinds of situations. And when you've taken some time to prepare, you're going to be ready to handle it and ready to have eyes on and focused on the situation at hand, and not worried about, are you ready and what do I need to do to prepare? You can't be distracted in that moment. And so this will give you peace of mind to respond to this reality check. Okay, so also, here's another big mistake that a lot of people will make, is that they have acquired all of these preps. They've filled their shelves with food, with water, with potential challenges or potential ways to address a challenge with a power outage, but they haven't used any of this stuff. They haven't prepared for how to engage with the self-defense equipment that they have, or how to cook the food. They don't have any recipes on hand. So you've got to begin to think through the skills and the knowledge so that you're not just stocking up, but you're actually ready to handle those situations. And then finally, the community strength. So there's great strength in community. And by building the relationships and the networks, you can provide and receive mutual aid, shared resources, and gain emotional support. So prepared communities are resilient communities. I just want to leave you with that thought. Prepared communities are resilient communities. And so if you have thought through these preps, if you've done this reality check for your family, you are not going to be one of those people who is unprepared in that situation, but you're actually going to be ready and focused when that SHTF situation comes. So which of these is the most key reality check you need to take action on, and how are you going to get started today in a small step for that first 72 hours and then extend it out over time?